The spiritual principle that breaks the cycle of emotional pain. Why emotional pain keeps repeating the hidden pattern. Have you ever noticed something strange about emotional pain? No matter how much you heal, no matter how many times you forgive, it somehow finds its way back into your life. Different people, different situations, same emotional wound. And the most confusing part is this: you're not careless. You're not ignorant. You're trying to grow. So why does the pain repeat? What if emotional pain isn't repeating because you're broken, but because life is trying to teach you something you keep missing? In this video, we're uncovering the spiritual root of emotional suffering, the unseen pattern that keeps pain circulating in your life until awareness finally breaks the loop. If you've ever asked, "Why does this keep happening to me?" this is where the real answer begins. Emotional pain is not random. Most people believe emotional pain comes from other people's behavior, betrayal, rejection, loss, abandonment, but spiritually speaking, these are triggers, not causes. Pain doesn't start outside of you. It activates inside of you. This is why two people can experience the same situation. One is destroyed by it. The other grows stronger. The difference is not luck. The difference is consciousness. Emotional pain repeats because it hasn't been fully understood. Spiritually, pain is not meant to punish you. It is meant to wake you up. Until the lesson is integrated, life will recreate the experience. The unseen cycle most people are trapped in. Here's the cycle almost everyone lives inside without realizing it. A situation triggers emotional pain. The mind creates a story around it. The emotion becomes personal identity. The pain is suppressed or resisted. Time passes, but the wound remains. Life recreates a similar situation and the cycle repeats. This is why people say, "I always attract the same kind of people. Every relationship ends the same way. No matter what I do, I end up hurt again." It's not fate. It's unconscious attachment. Pain repeats where awareness has not yet arrived. Why healing doesn't always work. Here's a hard truth most people never hear. Healing alone does not end emotional pain. Awareness does. You can talk about your pain, analyze your past, understand your trauma, and still remain trapped. Why? Because healing often works at the story level, while pain exists at the identity level. As long as you believe, "This pain defines me. This pain is who I am. This pain belongs to me," it stays alive. Pain feeds on identification. The moment you identify with pain, you give it permanence. Pain and the ego. Spiritually speaking, emotional pain is deeply connected to the ego. The ego is not evil. It is simply the identity you think you are. The ego says, "I was disrespected. I was abandoned. I was not chosen. I was betrayed." Notice something important. The ego always speaks in I. Pain becomes dangerous when it fuses with identity. At that point, you're no longer experiencing pain, you're being it. And what you become, you keep recreating. Why time doesn't heal everything. People often say, "Time heals all wounds." Spiritually, this is only half true. Time does not heal. Awareness heals. Time only covers wounds with distraction. This is why pain can disappear for years and return instantly when triggered, because it was never dissolved, only buried. Unfelt pain doesn't disappear, it waits, and when life creates the right conditions, it rises again. The role of attachment at the core of repeating emotional pain is attachment. Attachment is not love. Attachment is dependency. Attachment says, "I need this person to feel whole. I need this outcome to feel safe. I need approval to feel worthy." Spiritually, attachment is the belief that something outside of you controls your inner state. This belief creates vulnerability. The moment that external thing changes, your emotional stability collapses. Pain is born from attachment, not loss. Why pain feels so personal? Pain feels personal because the mind claims ownership of it. But here's the spiritual truth most people never consider. Pain happens within you, but it is not you. Just like thoughts arise, emotions arise, sensations arise, pain also arises. Yet the one who notices pain is not the pain itself. This distinction is subtle, but life-changing. Until you see this clearly, pain will feel inescapable. The real question you should be asking most people ask, why is this happening to me? Spiritually, this question keeps you trapped. The better question is, what is this pain trying to reveal about my attachment? Pain is not asking for resistance. It's asking for attention without identification. The moment pain is fully seen, its job is done. Why pain repeats until you change life does not repeat lessons to punish you. It repeats them until you outgrow them. If rejection hurts deeply, life will present rejection again. If abandonment terrifies you, life will test your sense of wholeness. If disrespect shatters you, life will challenge your self-worth, not to harm you but to liberate you. Pain repeats until you stop collapsing into it. The first shift that begins freedom does not begin by eliminating pain. It begins by changing your relationship to pain. The moment you stop saying, I am broken because I feel this, and start saying, something is being revealed to me, you step out of victimhood and into awareness. This is where the cycle starts to weaken. We're going deeper. You'll discover the core spiritual principle that dissolves emotional pain at the root, why observing pain is more powerful than fighting it, and how awareness alone can break cycles that therapy and effort cannot, because once you understand who you really are, pain no longer knows where to attach. This spiritual principle that breaks the cycle of emotional pain, the core principle awareness, ends suffering in part 1. You learned something most people never realize. Emotional pain repeats not because life is cruel, but because awareness hasn't replaced identification. Now comes the turning point. Because once you understand this one spiritual principle, pain can still appear, but it can no longer control you. This is the moment where suffering begins to lose its power. The single principle that changes everything here is the spiritual principle that ends emotional suffering at the root. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness that observes them. This may sound simple, almost too simple. But this realization is one of the most powerful truths in all spiritual traditions. Every form of suffering survives on one illusion that you are what you feel. The moment this illusion breaks, pain loses its identity. Why most people misunderstand emotions from childhood. We are taught to relate to emotions in only 2 ways: express them, suppress them, but we are almost never taught the third option: observe them. When an emotion arises, most people unconsciously say, I am angry, I am hurt, I am broken. Notice the language. The word am fuses identity with experience. Spiritually, this fusion is the root of suffering, because what you identify with, you empower. Awareness vs. identification. Let's make this clear. Identification sounds like, I am anxious, I am rejected, I am unloved. Awareness sounds like, anxiety is present. A feeling of rejection is arising. Sadness is being experienced. The difference is subtle, but life-altering. Awareness creates space. Identification creates prison. Pain cannot survive in space. It survives only when it becomes identity. Why observing pain weakens here's something most people find shocking. The moment you fully observe emotional pain, it begins to soften. Why? Because pain is not meant to be fought. It is meant to be seen. Unconscious pain screams. Conscious pain dissolves. When you observe pain without judgment, you remove its fuel. No resistance, no story. No identity, just presence, and presence is where pain loses its grip. The sky and the clouds metal. For deep dive, imagine your awareness as the sky. Thoughts are clouds. Emotions are clouds. Pain is a cloud. Some clouds are light, some are dark, some linger longer than others, but no cloud defines the sky. The sky does not chase clouds away. It does not argue with them. It does not cling to them. It allows them to pass. This is the attitude of awareness. When you become the sky instead of the storm, emotional pain no longer controls your inner world. Why fighting pain makes it stronger? Resistance feeds pain. When you say, I shouldn't feel this, this emotion is wrong. I need this pain to go away. You create inner conflict. Pain thrives on conflict. Spiritually, what you resist persists. This is why distraction, denial, and forced positivity fail in the long run. They don't remove pain, they delay it. Awareness ends the war, and without war, pain has nothing to fight with. The ego's fear of awareness, the ego fears awareness. Why? Because awareness dissolves false identity. The ego survives by saying, "This pain proves who I am. This story defines me. This wound protects me." But awareness says, you are more than this moment. The moment awareness becomes stable, the ego loosens its grip, and with it, emotional suffering weakens. Why pain feels intense at first when people begin observing emotions. Pain can temporarily feel stronger. This is normal. You are no longer numbing it. You are no longer escaping it. You are meeting it fully. But here's the truth. Pain peaks before it dissolves. When felt without resistance, emotions complete their cycle. They move through you instead of lodging inside you. Awareness is not cold or detached. Many people fear this principle because they think, if I observe my emotions, I'll become numb. The opposite is true. Awareness brings clarity, not coldness. It brings compassion, not disconnection. You still feel, you just don't drown. You experience emotions without losing yourself in them. This is emotional maturity. The moment pain stops owning you, here's a powerful realization. Pain can exist without suffering, but suffering cannot exist without identification. Two people can feel the same pain. One suffers, one remains grounded. The difference is not strength, it is awareness. The moment you stop saying, "This pain defines me," pain loses its authority. Why this principle ends repeating cycles. Life repeats lessons only while identity remains unconscious. Once awareness steps in, triggers weaken reactions, slow emotional charge fades. The same situations may appear, but they no longer wound you the same way. This is how cycles end, not by changing life, but by changing who is meeting life. Quiet power of observation. Observation is not passive. It is the most powerful inner act you can perform, because the observer is untouched. Thoughts come and go, emotions rise and fall, pain appears and disappears. But awareness remains. When you live from awareness, emotional pain loses its home. Now you understand the principle, but understanding alone is not enough. In Part 3, we will go practical and deep. How to apply awareness in real emotional moments, how to stay present when pain feels overwhelming, and how to permanently weaken emotional suffering over time. This is where knowledge becomes transformation. The spiritual principle that breaks the cycle of emotional pain, how to live from awareness and end emotional suffering for good. Powerful opening. The moment of truth, knowing the truth, is not the same as living it. Many people understand awareness intellectually, yet still collapse emotionally when life applies pressure. Why? Because awareness is not a thought. It is a practice. In this final part, we move from understanding to embodiment. This is where emotional pain stops being something you manage and becomes something that no longer owns you. Why pain returns even after realization. Let's be honest. You can hear everything we've discussed and still feel pain tomorrow. That doesn't mean the principle failed. It means conditioning is dissolving. Emotional patterns form over years. They don't vanish overnight. But here's the difference now. Pain may still arise, but it no longer defines you. This is how freedom begins quietly. The 3-stage practice of awareness. To live this principle, you must move through 3 stages. Recognition, non-resistance, stabilization. Let's break them down. Recognition. Catching pain as it arises. Most emotional suffering happens after the trigger, when the mind begins replaying, judging, and personalizing. Recognition means catching pain early. The moment you feel tightness in the chest, heaviness in the stomach, emotional heat, inner contraction, pause. Do not analyze, do not react, simply recognize an emotion is arising. This single sentence creates separation. You are no longer drowning, you are noticing, and noticing is power. Why naming the emotion helps gently naming the emotion brings it into awareness. Not, I am angry, but anger is present. Not, I am hurt, but hurt is arising. Language matters. Words either trap you in identity or free you into awareness. This small shift weakens emotional charge instantly. Non-resistance, letting pain complete itself, this is where most people fail. They recognize pain, then immediately try to fix it. But awareness does not fix, it allows. Sit with the sensation. Notice where it lives in the body. Notice its movement. Notice its intensity changing. Do not ask it to leave. Do not demand answers. Pain that is allowed cannot stay long. Resistance keeps emotions frozen. Acceptance lets them move. Why feeling pain is not the same as suffering, this is crucial. Feeling pain is natural. Suffering is optional. Suffering begins when the mind says, this shouldn't be happening. This means something about me. This will never end. Awareness removes these stories. Without story, pain is just sensation, and sensation passes. The moment pain starts to dissolve, something extraordinary happens. When pain is fully allowed, it softens. Not because you forced it, but because its message was received. Pain exists to be felt consciously. Once it is, it completes its role. This is emotional alchemy. Stabilization, living as the observer. This is where freedom becomes permanent. Stabilization means you identify less with thoughts, emotions arise without overwhelming you, reactions slow down, inner space increases, you begin living as awareness, not visiting it. Life still happens. But it happens through you, not to you. How daily practice changes everything. You don't need hours of meditation. You need moments of presence. While walking, while breathing, while listening, while feeling discomfort, ask silently, what is aware of this moment? That question returns you home. Why triggers become teachers? Once awareness stabilizes, triggers lose their threat. Instead of, why did this hurt me? You ask, what belief was touched? Every trigger reveals attachment, and awareness dissolves attachment naturally. This is how emotional pain becomes guidance, not punishment. What emotional freedom actually looks like. Emotional freedom is not constant happiness. It looks like calm under pressure, clarity in conflict, groundedness in uncertainty, softness without weakness. You still feel deeply, but you are no longer consumed. This is inner power. Why other people lose power over you when awareness leads. Other people cannot control your inner state. Their behavior may still be inappropriate, but it no longer destabilizes you. Why? Because your sense of self is no longer dependent on external validation. Pain needs dependency. Awareness dissolves it. The end of repeating emotional cycles here is the quiet miracle. When awareness becomes your foundation, life stops repeating the same emotional lessons, not because situations disappear, but because you have changed. What once wounded you now passes through you. This is spiritual graduation. The deepest truth about healing. Healing is not about fixing the past. It's about seeing clearly in the present. The moment you stop identifying with pain, the past loses its grip, and the future loses its fear. All that remains is now. Final message, the shift that changes everything. Let this land deeply. You were never meant to carry pain forever. You were meant to awaken through it. Pain comes to be seen. Awareness comes to set you free. The moment awareness becomes your home, emotional suffering has nowhere left to live. If this message resonated with you, it's because something in you already knows the truth. Awareness is not something you gain, it's something you remember. And once remembered, nothing can take it from you.